It was the kind of dinner table that begged to be photographed for a magazine spread. Candles flickering in crystal holders, a roast chicken glistening under a glaze of honey and thyme, and a bottle of Cabernet breathing next to two pristine wine glasses. Jenna Vance sat at the head of the long mahogany table in the Sterling family dining room. Her hands folded neatly in her lap. She checked her watch, 8:15 p.m., 30 minutes late. Miss Vance, the housekeeper's voice cut through the silence, brisk and devoid of pity. Mr. Evan just called. He says something came up at work. He suggests you go ahead and eat without him. Jenna looked up. Her expression unreadable. Something came up. It was the same excuse he'd used last week when she'd waited at that Italian place downtown for 2 hours. And the week before that, when he'd missed her gallery opening. But tonight wasn't just a Tuesday. It was her 30th birthday. It was also their 3-year anniversary. Did he say when he'd be home? Jenna asked, her voice steady. The housekeeper hesitated, eyes darting away. He didn't say, ma'am, just that he's tied up. Jenna nodded slowly and picked up her phone. Her last text to Evan sat unread from 3 hours ago. Can't wait to celebrate tonight. I made your favorite. She scrolled past it, her thumb hovering over Instagram. A notification popped up from her friend Jenna. Don't freak out. But look at this. Attached was a photo taken 20 minutes ago. The location tagged was the Velvet Lounge, a trendy nightclub across town known for its overpriced cocktails and thumping bass. In the center of the frame, bathed in neon blue light, was Evan. He wasn't at a desk buried under paperwork. He was leaning back in a booth, laughing, his arm draped casually around a petite blonde woman in a silver dress. Danielle, his childhood neighbor. The girl Evan swore was just like a little sister. Jenna zoomed in. Evan's hand wasn't resting on Danielle's shoulder in a brotherly way. It was low on her waist, fingers splayed possessively. Danielle was whispering something in his ear, her lips brushing his lobe, a triumphant smirk playing on her face as if she knew the camera was there. The air left the room. Jenna felt a cold, hard knot form in her stomach. For 3 years, she had played the role of the perfect, supportive partner. She had dimmed her own light to let Evan shine, listening to his endless complaints about his visionary startup, soothing his ego when investors passed, and even lending his mother, the formidable Victoria Sterling, a priceless family heirloom to help her impress her high society friends. All because she believed in him, all because she thought they were building a future. Tied up at work, she thought, staring at the screen. Right? The front door opened with a heavy thud, followed by the click-clack of expensive heels on marble. Victoria Sterling swept into the dining room, tossing her fur coat onto a chair without looking at Jenna. "Why are you sitting in the dark, dear?" Victoria asked, pouring herself a glass of water from the sideboard. "It's remarkably depressing." "Evan isn't coming," Jenna said quietly. Victoria waved a manicured hand. "Oh, please, don't be dramatic. My son is a busy man. He's building an empire, Jenna. You of all people should understand that requires sacrifice. Honestly, this needy behavior is unbecoming. You're lucky he puts up with it." Needy, the word hung in the air, sharp and poisonous. Jenna looked at the woman who had treated her like a glorified assistant for years, then down at the photo of Evan grinding on another woman while her birthday dinner went cold. Something inside Jenna snapped. It wasn't a loud, hysterical break. It was quiet, precise, and final. Like a violin string pulled too tight, she stood up. "You're right, Victoria," Jenna said, her voice eerily calm. "I do understand sacrifice. I've sacrificed my time, my energy, and my dignity for this family. But tonight, I'm done." Victoria blinked, startled by the sudden steel in Jenna's tone. "Excuse me?" Jenna didn't answer. She reached out and took hold of the tablecloth. With one swift, violent motion, she yanked. Crystal shattered. The roast chicken slid onto the Persian rug with a wet thud. The bottle of Cabernet spun and crashed, spraying red wine across the pristine white walls like a crime scene. The housekeeper gasped. Victoria shrieked, jumping back as wine splattered onto her designer shoes. "Have you lost your mind?" "No," Jenna said, picking up her purse. She looked at the wreckage, the ruined dinner, the stained carpet, the shocked faces of the people who had taken her for granted. For the first time all day, she smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. "I think I just found it." She walked out of the Sterling mansion without looking back, leaving the chaos behind her. She didn't go to her car to cry. She drove straight to the apartment she shared with Evan, the one she paid the rent for, and started packing. She wasn't just leaving, she was evicting him, and she had a feeling the night was only just beginning. Jenna's apartment was silent, save for the hum of the refrigerator and the rhythmic thud of expensive leather hitting hardwood. Evan's Italian loafers. Thud. His collection of vintage vinyl records. Thud. The limited edition sneakers he'd begged her to buy for his birthday. Thud. Jenna didn't just pack, she excavated. She moved through the rooms like a storm, stripping away every trace of Evan Sterling from her life. His toothbrush, garbage. The world's best boyfriend mug she'd ironically given him last Christmas. Garbage, his half-finished business plan for a startup that was, frankly, a glorified pyramid scheme. Recycling, she was thorough. By 1 a.m., the hallway outside her apartment looked like a high-end yard sale gone wrong. Piles of clothes, boxes of electronics, and a guitar case leaned haphazardly against the wall. Inside, the apartment felt bigger, lighter. Jenna poured herself a glass of cheap wine, the kind Evan hated, and sat on her velvet sofa in the dark, waiting. At 2:13 a.m., a key scratched against the lock. "Babe?" Evan's voice was slurred, muffled through the door. "Why is the chain on?" Jenna stood up, smoothed her silk robe, and walked to the door. She didn't open it. She just unlocked the deadbolt and stepped back. The door swung open, revealing Evan Sterling in all his disheveled glory. His tie was undone, his shirt half untucked, and his face flushed with alcohol. Clinging to his arm like a decorative vine was Danielle. She wore a silver dress that looked more like a sequined napkin, and her lipstick was smeared, suspiciously similar to the shade on Evan's collar. They both froze, blinking in the dim light of the hallway, staring at the mountain of belongings blocking their path. "What the hell is this?" Evan asked, swaying slightly. He kicked a box labeled Evan's crap. "It's moving day," Jenna said, her voice cool and pleasant. She leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. "Happy anniversary, by the way." Evan's eyes widened, a flicker of panic cutting through the booze. "Jenna, wait, you're overreacting. We were just blowing off steam. Danielle's been helping me with some networking. It was strictly professional." Danielle giggled, a high, irritating sound. She draped herself closer to Evan, her hand resting possessively on his bicep. "Yeah, Jenna, don't be such a psycho. We're practically family. You know how close we are." "Family," Jenna repeated, tasting the word like sour milk. "Right. The kind of family that grinds on each other at the Velvet Lounge while your girlfriend waits for you at home on her birthday." Evan hailed. "Who sent you that photo, Jenna?" "She's always trying to stir up drama. Look, I'm sorry I missed dinner. Okay, my phone died. Work got crazy." "Your phone died," Jenna said flatly. "But Danielle's Instagram story was posted 20 minutes ago from your account." Silence stretched, thick and uncomfortable. Evan opened his mouth, then closed it. He looked from Jenna to the boxes, then back to Jenna. His face shifted from guilty to angry, the classic deflection of a man caught red-handed. "You're being ridiculous," he snapped, stepping toward her. "I pay half the rent here. You can't just kick me out in the middle of the night." "Actually," Jenna said, pulling a folded piece of paper from her robe pocket, "you don't. I pay the rent. My name is on the lease. You've been between investments for 6 months, remember? Technically, you're a guest, and guests can be asked to leave." She unfolded the paper and held it up. It was a printout of her bank statements, highlighting every single rent payment for the last year. Evan stared at it, dumbfounded. Men like Evan love playing the visionary founder, provided a woman is quietly paying the rent. He truly believed his delusions of grandeur granted him squatter's rights. Jenna didn't scream or beg. She simply produced the ledger. This is why financial independence is a woman's finest armor. You cannot swiftly evict a parasite if he owns the host. Always keep the lease in your name, darlings. It makes clearing out the clutter remarkably efficient. "Get out," Jenna said. Her voice wasn't loud, but it had the finality of a gavel striking wood. "You're joking," Danielle scoffed, rolling her eyes. "Come on, Evan, let's go." "She's obviously having a mental breakdown. We can stay at the hotel downtown. It's nicer anyway." Evan hesitated, his gaze lingering on the warm, comfortable apartment he was losing. Then he sneered, "Fine, have it your way. Enjoy being alone with your cats, Jenna. You were always too boring for me anyway." He grabbed Danielle's hand and turned, stumbling over a pile of his own shirts. "Let's go, Danielle. I'm driving." Jenna watched them retreat down the hallway, dragging a few bags with them, leaving the rest of the mess for the building staff to deal with in the morning. She didn't stop them. She didn't cry. She didn't chase after him to beg for closure. Instead, she walked to the window and looked down at the street. A few minutes later, she saw them emerge from the building. Evan was swaying, clearly intoxicated, fumbling with his keys as they approached his sleek black sedan. He got into the driver's seat. Danielle hopped into the passenger side laughing. The engine roared to life. The car swerved slightly as it pulled out of the parking spot, nearly clipping a fire hydrant before accelerating down the empty street. Jenna watched the red taillights fade into the distance. She pulled her phone from her pocket. Her thumb hovered over his contact name for a second, Evan Fay, before she deleted it. Let's be crystal clear. Reporting a drunk driver isn't petty vengeance. It is a civic duty. Most women would waste the night weeping over the childhood friend. Jenna opted for traffic enforcement. Why fight over a cheating liability when you can let the state manage his accommodations? A DUI is a far more appropriate anniversary gift than useless tears. She didn't ruin his life. She merely let him drive himself off the cliff. Then, with calm precision, she dialed 3 numbers. 921-1. "What is your emergency?" "Hi," Jenna said, her voice steady and clear. "I'd like to report a drunk driver, a black BMW license plate, number Stroll-ing 1. He just left the Highland Towers and is heading south on Main Street. He's extremely intoxicated and swerving all over the road. I'm worried he's going to hurt someone." "We'll dispatch a unit immediately, ma'am. Thank you." Jenna hung up. She took a sip of her wine, watching the city lights twinkle below. For the first time in 3 years, the knot in her chest was gone. She wasn't just cleaning house, she was taking out the trash. The morning sun filtered through Jenna's apartment window, illuminating the remnants of her life with Evan Sterling scattered in the hallway. She sipped her coffee, scrolling through the local news on her phone. Breaking: local entrepreneur Evan Sterling arrested for DUI after high-speed chase. The mugshot was brutal. Evan looked dazed, his hair sticking up in every direction, his tie askew. It was the face of a man who had lost control of his car, his night, and his carefully curated image. Jenna didn't feel a flicker of pity. She felt vindication, but the internet, as always, had other ideas. Her phone buzzed with a notification from Instagram. Danielle had posted a video. Jenna clicked it. Danielle was teary-eyed, sitting on a hotel bed, clutching a tissue. The caption read, "Heartbroken and homeless." "My best friend's GF kicked us out at 3 a.m. because she was jealous. Now he's in jail for a mistake. Some people are just evil." Faye number Justice for Evan comments were pouring in. "OMG, poor Evan, she sounds like a psycho. Jealousy is ugly, sending love Danielle. Hope he dumps her. Who does that on their birthday?" Then came the group chat notifications. Evan's wealthy friends, the ones who had mocked Jenna's quaint job restoration, work behind her back. "We're piling on, Brad. Wow, Jenna. Really calling the cops on your own boyfriend? That's low. Jessica, you know how stressed he's been with the startup. You just ruined his life over a misunderstanding. Mark, we always knew you were crazy. But this is next level. You owe him an apology and bail money." Jenna set her mug down on the counter. The steam curled into the air. She didn't type a single furious reply. She didn't call anyone to explain herself. She simply opened her laptop. She had receipts first. She uploaded the doorbell camera footage from the night before. It showed Evan stumbling out of the elevator at 2:15 a.m., clearly intoxicated, with Danielle clinging to him like a barnacle. It captured his slurred words. "Let's go to the hotel, babe. Forget her. She's boring anyway." It showed him fumbling with his keys and nearly falling into the driver's seat. Then she posted screenshots of the text messages from earlier that evening. Evan, 6 p.m., stuck at the office late again. "Don't wait up for dinner. Love you." Jenna, 8:05 p.m., photo of Evan and Danielle at the Velvet Lounge, Evan 2, 10 a.m. Unanswered call log. Finally, she addressed the group chat directly. She didn't defend herself. She didn't argue. She just typed one line: "I don't support drunk drivers. And I don't date liars. Good luck with the bail money." Guys, she hit send, then left the group. The silence that followed was deafening. The comments on Danielle's video began to shift as Jenna's posts went viral. People were realizing the truth. Evan wasn't a victim. He was a cheater who drove drunk and endangered lives. The hashtag number Justice for Evan quickly turned into number Evan is trash. But Jenna wasn't done. There was one more loose end. One very expensive, very personal loose end. She dialed Victoria Sterling. The phone rang twice before going to voicemail. Jenna hung up and dialed again and again. Finally, on the fourth try, Victoria picked up. "Jenna," Victoria hissed, her voice tight with fury. "Do you realize what you've done? Evan is in a holding cell because of you. His investors are pulling out. You have humiliated this family." "I think Evan did that all by himself," Jenna replied calmly. "But that's not why I'm calling Victoria. What do you want? Money? Is that it? You want to pay off to go away?" Jenna laughed, a short, sharp sound. "I don't want your money, Victoria. I want my painting back." Silence. "The painting," Victoria repeated slowly. "The one you gave me for the charity gala." "The one I loaned you," Jenna corrected, emphasizing the word. "For the gala 3 months ago, you said you'd return it the next day. I've asked for it back 5 times now. I'm demanding it." "Oh, don't be petty," Victoria scoffed. "It's just some old landscape. It looks lovely in the foyer. Consider it a parting gift for all the trouble you've caused." "It's not a gift," Jenna said, her voice dropping an octave. "And it's not some old landscape. It's an original Arthur Vance, My grandfather painted it in 1952. It's worth more than your entire foyer, Victoria. Victoria let out a dismissive laugh. Your grandfather, the hobbyist? Please, Jenna. It's a nice decorative piece. Nothing more. Stop trying to inflate your importance. We're keeping it. Click. Victoria hung up. Jenna stared at the phone. She could feel the anger simmering beneath her skin. Hot and dangerous. They thought she was powerless. They thought she was just a quiet girl from a modest background who should be grateful for scraps. They thought they could take everything from her, her dignity, her time, her family heirlooms, and face no consequences. She smiled. It was the same smile she'd worn when she yanked the tablecloth. She opened her contacts and scrolled past lawyer to a number she hadn't called in years. It rang once, Jenna, a gruff, familiar voice answered. Is everything all right? Hi, Grandpa, Jenna said, her voice softening for the first time in days. I need a favor, and I think you're going to enjoy this one. She hung up and looked at her reflection in the mirror. Her eyes were bright, her jaw was set. She wasn't just getting her painting back. She was going to burn their house down, metaphorically speaking, of course. She opened Twitter and typed a new tweet. Faye Victoria Sterling, you have 24 hours to return my stolen property. Or I'm going live to explain exactly where that old landscape came from. Tick-tock, she hit tweet. The retweets started instantly. The hashtag number return the painting was trending by lunchtime. Jenna's tweet had been simple, but the internet loves a mystery, especially one involving a wealthy family and a scorned ex. People were digging. They found old photos of the Sterling Gala, where the painting, a moody, atmospheric landscape of a stormy coastline, hung prominently behind Victoria as she clinked champagne glasses with the mayor. Wait, that looks like an Arthur Vance, one art enthusiast commented. No way. Those are impossible to find. They're all in museums or private vaults. If that's real, it's worth millions. Why would she give it to an ex's mom? The speculation fueled the fire. The Sterling family business, Sterling Enterprises, was already taking a hit from Evans' DUI arrest. Now, accusations of theft were piling on. Investors were calling, the board was panicking. Victoria Sterling, however, remained silent. She was betting on Jenna bluffing. She was betting that the quiet girl who used to fix her tea would fold under pressure. She bet wrong. At 4 p.m., Jenna's phone rang. It was Victoria's assistant, sounding breathless. Miss Vance, Mrs. Sterling would like to meet. She found the painting. It was in storage. A misunderstanding, of course. Of course, Jenna said dryly. Where? The Grand Plaza Hotel, the lobby 6 p.m. She's inviting a few friends to clear the air. Jenna smiled. Friends meant press. Victoria wanted to spin this. She wanted to look benevolent, returning a trinket to a desperate ex-girlfriend. She wanted to control the narrative. I'll be there, Jenna said. She hung up and called her lawyer. Then she called her grandfather. The Grand Plaza lobby was a cathedral of marble and gold leaf. A small crowd had gathered, reporters, curious onlookers, and a few of Victoria's high society cronies, sipping overpriced martinis and whispering. Victoria stood by the fireplace, looking every inch the aggrieved matriarch in a cream silk suit. Beside her stood a large easel, covered by a velvet cloth. Jenna walked in. She wore a simple black dress and a trench coat. Her hair pulled back in a severe bun. She looked like an executioner. Chimeras flashed. Victoria beamed, stepping forward with open arms. Jenna, darling, so glad you could make it. This whole misunderstanding has been dreadful, simply dreadful. Jenna stopped just out of reach. The painting, Victoria. Victoria's smile faltered for a second, then returned tighter. Yes, yes, the painting. Honestly, I didn't realize it meant so much to you. It's just a lovely little piece, isn't it? She gestured to the easel with a dramatic flourish. She pulled off the velvet cloth. There it was, the stormy coastline, the brooding gray sky, the signature in the corner, A. Vance. The crowd murmured appreciatively. It was beautiful. There, Victoria said, her voice dripping with condescension, safe and sound. I even had it professionally cleaned for you. Consider it a parting gift, dear. Now perhaps you can delete those silly tweets and we can all move on. Jenna stared at the canvas. She stepped closer, her eyes narrowing. She studied the brushstrokes on the waves. She looked at the texture of the paint. She examined the signature for 10 long seconds. The only sound was the click of cameras. Then Jenna looked up. Her expression was unreadable. It's beautiful, she said softly. Victoria let out a breath she didn't know she was holding. I'm glad you think so now. Victoria assumed Jenna was weak, easily manipulated, and intimidated by so-called old money. A fatal miscalculation. Jenna didn't just demand her property back. She handed Victoria enough rope to hang herself on a public stage, bringing the globally renowned artist to publicly appraise the forgery. That is a masterclass in elegant execution. Never argue with arrogant people in private. Let their sheer audacity do the heavy lifting under the brightest lights possible. It's a beautiful print, Jenna finished, her voice cutting through the room like a knife. The silence was instant. Victoria froze. Excuse me, this isn't the painting I loaned you, Jenna said, turning to face the cameras. This is a high-quality Jekyll Fay print on canvas. It's a reproduction, a fake. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Victoria's face went from cream to crimson. How dare you? I am returning your property in good faith. You ungrateful little... The original, Jenna interrupted, pointing at the canvas, was painted with oil on linen, not cotton. The texture is wrong. And the signature? My grandfather always used a specific mix of ultramarine and burnt umber for his signature. This is just black paint. It's flat. She turned back to Victoria, her eyes cold. Where is the real painting, Victoria? Victoria sputtered. You're delusional. You're just trying to embarrass me. It's the same painting. You probably gave me a fake in the first place. Danielle, who had been lurking near the bar, stepped forward, phone recording. Yeah, you're just a scammer, Jenna. You're jealous because Evan dumped you, so now you're trying to ruin his family. I'm not trying to ruin anyone, Jenna said calmly. I'm trying to recover a stolen masterpiece. Masterpiece, Victoria laughed, a shrill, hysterical sound. It's a hobby painting by your nobody grandfather. Who cares if it's real or not? It's worthless. Jenna checked her watch, 6:15 p.m., right on time. Actually, she said, looking past Victoria to the hotel's revolving doors, I think the artist might disagree. A sleek black town car pulled up to the curb outside. The doorman hurried to open the rear door. A hush fell over the lobby as an elderly man stepped out. He leaned on a polished cane, but his back was straight. His silver hair swept back. He wore a tweed suit that looked older than half the people in the room, yet he carried himself with an air of absolute authority. He walked through the doors, the crowd parting instinctively. He didn't look at the cameras. He didn't look at Victoria. He looked straight at Jenna. Hello, Jenna, Arthur Vance said, his voice gravelly and warm. Hi, Grandpa, Jenna replied. Victoria's eyes bulged. She looked from the old man to the painting, then back to the old man. Recognition and horror dawned on her face. That someone whispered. That's Arthur Vance, the real Arthur Vance, the recluse. The guy whose painting sold for $40 million last year. Oh my God. Arthur walked up to the easel. He put on a pair of spectacles and leaned in. He looked at the painting for exactly 3 seconds. Then he straightened up and turned to Victoria. This, he said, gesturing to the canvas with his cane, is garbage, and I should know. I didn't paint it. He looked at Jenna. Did you call the police yet? Jenna smiled. They're on their way, Grandpa. Grand larceny and fraud. Victoria Sterling fainted. The Grand Plaza lobby descended into chaos. Victoria Sterling didn't faint gracefully, like a heroine in a period drama. She crumpled like a discarded napkin, sliding down the marble column she'd been leaning on. Her assistant rushed forward, fanning her with a menu, while Danielle stood frozen, her phone still recording. Her mouth agape. Grandpa? Danielle squeaked, looking from Jenna to the imposing figure of Arthur Vance. You mean, like, the Arthur Vance, the guy in the textbooks? Arthur ignored her. He was busy examining the fake painting with the kind of disdain usually reserved for gas station sushi. Acrylics, he muttered, shaking his head. Lazy. Jenna stepped forward, her voice calm amidst the storm. Victoria knew exactly what she had, she addressed the room, and by extension, the thousands watching the live streams. She knew it was an original because I told her when I loaned it. She just didn't think I mattered enough for anyone to believe me. Victoria groaned, stirring. She sat up, her perfect hair askew. You set me up, she shrieked, pointing a trembling finger at Jenna. You little con artist, you switched them. I gave you back the real one. Stop lying, Victoria, Jenna said, her tone icy. We have the appraisal documents from when I insured it last year. We have photos of the brushwork, and we have the artist standing right here saying it's a fake. Arthur turned slowly to face Victoria. His eyes, sharp and blue behind his spectacles, pinned her in place. Madam, he rumbled, I painted Storm over Cape Cod in 1952. It was a gift to my late wife. It has a specific underpainting of burnt sienna that gives it a warmth this poster lacks entirely. To suggest my granddaughter would forge my work is not only insulting, it's idiotic. The hotel doors spun again this time. It wasn't a celebrity artist. It was 2 uniformed officers, followed by a detective in a cheap suit. Victoria Sterling, the detective asked, scanning the room. Victoria scrambled to her feet, smoothing her skirt with frantic, jerky movements. Yes. What is the meaning of this? We received a complaint regarding the theft of artwork valued over $5 million, as well as attempted fraud, the detective said, pulling out a pair of handcuffs. We also have a warrant to search your property for the original. $5 million, Danielle screeched. You said it was worth like 10 grand tops. Victoria whirled on her. Shut up, you idiot. Ma'am, please turn around, the officer said, stepping forward. This is a mistake. Victoria wailed as the cold metal clicked around her wrists. My son is Evan Sterling. We are pillars of this community. I demand to speak to my lawyer. You can call him from the station, the detective said, unimpressed. He looked at Jenna. Miss Vance, Mr. Vance, we'll need your statements. Jenna nodded. She watched as Victoria was led away, her protests echoing off the high ceilings. The flashes of the cameras were blinding now, documenting every second of the Sterling matriarch's downfall. Danielle tried to slink away into the crowd, but a reporter blocked her path. Danielle, did you know the painting was stolen? Did Evan know? I know. I didn't know anything, Danielle stammered, backing away. I thought it was just decoration. Evan told me Jenna was crazy. Leave me alone. She turned and ran, her heels clicking frantically on the marble, leaving her dignity and her chances of social climbing. Behind, Arthur walked over to Jenna and placed a hand on her shoulder. "You handled that well, kiddo." Jenna let out a long, shaky breath. The adrenaline was fading, leaving her tired but strangely light. "Thanks for coming, Grandpa. I know you hate crowds. For you, anything," Arthur said, glancing at the fake painting one last time. "Besides, I couldn't let someone get away with confusing my work for this." He chuckled, a dry, raspy sound. "Let's get out of here. I'm starving. Is that Italian place you like still open?" Jenna smiled. "Yeah, it is." As they walked out of the hotel, arm in arm, Jenna's phone buzzed in her pocket. She ignored it. It buzzed again and again. She pulled it out. "Evan, Jenna, please. My mom is in jail. The press is everywhere. I didn't know she swapped the painting. I swear. Can we talk, please? Evan, I miss you. Danielle is crazy. I made a huge mistake." Evan picked up the phone. Jenna looked at the screen for a long moment. Then, she looked up at the city skyline, at the stars struggling to shine through the light pollution. She tapped block. Then she put the phone away and stepped into the cool night air with her grandfather. 3 months later, Jenna sat in her new office, a sun-drenched loft overlooking the river. The walls were lined with canvases in various stages of restoration, some centuries old, some modern, all handled with the reverence they deserved. On her desk sat a framed newspaper clipping. The headline read, "Sterling Downfall. Heirloom Fraud Exposed as Matriarch Faces Prison." Below it was a smaller article. "Local entrepreneur Evan Sterling pleads guilty to DUI and grand larceny charges." Jenna didn't gloat. She didn't need to. The universe had a way of balancing the scales. The door chimed, and her assistant poked her head in. "Jenna, there's a delivery for you. It's from the gallery downtown." "Send it in," Jenna said, not looking up from the 18th century portrait she was cleaning. A courier walked in, carrying a large, flat package wrapped in brown paper. He set it down carefully on a workbench. "Sign here, please." Jenna signed. Once he left, she picked up a utility knife and sliced through the tape. She pulled back the paper. It was Storm over Cape Cod, the real one. The police had recovered it from a private collector in Zurich, to whom Victoria had quietly sold it for a fraction of its value to cover her gambling debts. The collector, horrified to learn it was stolen, had returned it immediately to avoid prosecution. Jenna ran her fingers over the texture of the oil paint, feeling the familiar ridges of the waves, the roughness of the linen canvas. It smelled like linseed oil and old varnish. It smelled like home. Tucked into the back of the frame was a small envelope. Jenna opened it. Inside was a handwritten note on thick, cream-colored cardstock. "Jenna, I was a fool. I thought I needed someone who looked good on my arm, someone who fit the mold my mother built for me. I didn't realize I had a masterpiece right in front of me until I lost her. I'm so sorry." Jenna read the note twice. Her expression didn't change. She didn't feel a pang of regret or a flutter of longing. She felt nothing. It was like reading a letter from a stranger about a life she no longer recognized. She walked over to the shredder by her desk. With a soft hum, the machine devoured Evan's apology, turning his words into confetti. Then she picked up the painting. She carried it to the center of the room and hung it on the main wall, where the afternoon light hit it perfectly. The storm clouds in the painting looked fierce and beautiful, a testament to resilience. Her phone buzzed on the desk. It was a text from Jenna, "Drinks tonight to celebrate the grand opening. I heard that cute architect from the gallery wants to meet you." Jenna smiled. She typed back, "I'll be there." She grabbed her purse and her keys. As she locked the studio door behind her, she glanced back at the painting one last time. It was back where it belonged, and so was she. She walked out into the sunshine, leaving the shadows of the Sterling family far behind her. She was Jenna Vance. She was an artist, she was free, and her life was just beginning. Let's elevate this for a moment. We are constantly taught the myth of the supportive girlfriend. Women are conditioned to dim their own light, swallow their dignity, and happily fund a man's elusive potential. But potential does not pay the rent, and it frequently winds up at a nightclub with the blonde neighbor. Funding a grown man's ego is the absolute worst investment a woman can make. The very second you stop financing their delusion and enforce a boundary, you immediately become the villain in their story. Let them cast you as the villain. Villains usually sleep exceptionally well in beautiful apartments they actually own. Have you ever financed a man's empire only to realize you were just subsidizing his audacity? How did you finally cut the funding and reclaim your peace? I'll be in the comments reading and judging accordingly.